So this week we are back in the Isle of Wight, and I am really impressed. Sometimes you leave a site doing a bit of work and they say, yeah, we'll get all that done, but by the time you come next time, look at this. Now, a lot of fishermen will look at this and go, oh, they're ruining it. I'll tell you now, this place always had the potential. You wait. There's about a dozen members working their asses off. The machinery got here Friday. They've already cleared loads of swim, cleared loads of crap. And I tell you now, anyone who moans, they don't get what we're doing. They don't understand, because what will really happen is all this work that's happening now, which will obviously upset someone. In a year's time, anyone who leaves the club will be back. It happens every time. We see it all the time for decades now. Moan. Oh, can we have a ticket now? It's looking lovely. Yeah, well, unfortunately, you've got to put things right. The swims, the banks, they're undercut. There's a lot of dangerous things going on with the swims. No fault of the clubs. It's just old stuff that hadn't been addressed for years. And already, the amount of work they've done is fantastic. So we're just here to do what we can, helping them, really. It's awesome. Same again. Every time you build a peg, when the anglers say, does it put the fishing off? They're just turning it over down there. Everywhere you go. It's summer, they want to feed, there's spawning's out of the way. Literally wherever we've been, the fish is straight in there. Every time. So the club have wisely decided to reduce the number of pegs on this lake from 40 to 30. Less is more. So they've brilliantly gone round. They've done so much prep already. They've gone round and ripped a lot of the old platforms out, which were dangerous, and then marked where we're going to put the new swims built into the bank. But where they've left a big gap, where the erosions occurred underneath the old swims, it leaves bare bank. So I'll show you. Basically, rather than just leave that, it will just keep crumbling in. So I've got the digger here. So when I'm creating the new swim, which the new swim's going in there, old one's here. It's only a 5-minute job. Obviously, just to leave that and butter up against it ain't good enough. So basically, all right, you sacrifice maybe a foot of bank, but I'll rebuild that, bring more clay from under there, just grade it back, tuck it all in, and then all the plants that I want to keep, I'll get rid of some of that junkers, but all these nice little bits and pieces, there's a bit of Norfolk Reeds, a bit of Iris, bits and pieces of everything there. I can literally lift all that and then put it back in here. So that way you're repairing the old bit of damaged bank, and then that leaves you a nice bit of prepared bank ready for the new swim. Just trying to use the machine all the time and not just come and all right, build a swim, move on. It's like, well, okay, look, for an extra few minutes, it's well worth repairing that bank, because it really is all about stabilising the banks as well as building swims. Good. A few angling clubs should take note of this. Again, there's at least a dozen blokes here, all grafting. They've got chippers, dumpers, diggers, doing some really constructive tree and margin work. Absolutely fantastic. That's how to get stuff done, and they're doing it for the future generations, encouraging juniors, creating safe fishing spaces, better fishing, better quality fish. They're doing a hell of a lot of work, and if angling clubs took note of this more often and invested wisely, they're doing a hell of a lot of work themselves. We're just here helping, really. Then this is how to future-proof your fisheries. Understanding oxygen levels, understanding your stocking densities, understanding that you can't just leave it to nature. If you do, and especially with the current climate, we get a lot of people who tell us, no, I just should leave it natural, leave it all natural, leave this, that and the other. Well, we don't live in the dark ages, unfortunately. We live in the bright, sunny ages. I'm just stood in the shade now. Water levels are dropping everywhere. The winters aren't cold anymore. And that used to be our saving grace as fishery owners and fishery managers in the winters. You'd have a good old winter and it'd sort everything out. It really would. So more clubs should do this. We work for some amazing angling clubs, but we work for just as many that really struggle, and they blame all sorts of weird and wonderful excuses why they can't get anything done. But if you take a leaf out of like the Earl of Harrington's book and these guys on the Isle of Wight, these guys, this is how to do stuff. And I tell you now, in 5 years' time, you can look back at this place. Everyone struggles with water levels and fish, mortality and that sort of thing, but you've got to do stuff for the long term, and you just can't beat practical fishery management. It's what we preach every day, and it's just an absolute privilege to come and help these guys out. It's why we do the job. It's very commendable. It's brilliant. It's just great seeing them all, and it's good banter. It's good, really good vibes, man. It's awesome. When we first came, that bank was eroding really badly, and the stagings, if you look at the video we did last time, the stagings were just literally collapsing. And obviously you've got to protect these banks, they're quite narrow, and now it's full of irises. When we first plant the irises, sometimes all the energy goes to the roots, so we cut them right down, and they take initially, and then it looks like they die, and basically all the energy goes to the root, and that's kind of what you want. Because when we came last time, it looked like they'd died back, but they hadn't. The roots were taking hold, and now obviously they've come up nice. So instead of having platforms sticking out, we've put stable swims inside the bank. And obviously for match fishing, your match anglers will moan and say, can't get my keep net in, but you've got to bear in mind, at the moment you're looking at this water, it's a foot and a half down just for evaporation over the summer, so it will be back up again, and by the time people start chucking keep nets and bits and pieces in and out of the water a few times, it will level off. But it's more important, to be honest, to strengthen the bank. You know, I'm not too worried about keep nets because, you know, anglers will sort their own way out, but like here it looks like it's a long way off the water, but I mean, there's a foot and a half extra water on here, it's coming up almost to the bottom. And you just chuck your nets out either side, and you've got a flat level swim to fish off. And this will all sink, normally 1 inch, 2 inches, so we leave them quite high. Bit of rain on there, it'll keep compacting down, and then you can top them with either type 1 or, you know, whatever you want really, or wood chip. As you can see, there's at least 15 people working here now. It's absolutely brilliant. Trimming up the islands. 2 diggers on the go, 2 dumpers, tree surgeon up there. You know, it's just brilliant work, really is. Obviously anyone who walks down there who's just a fisherman, they'll moan like hell and say, oh, this, that and the other, but unfortunately we're doing what's best for the future of the venue, future of the stocks, not just for today. And the ground's hard, the ground's really hard, sometimes it's tricky to get these in, but this is just how I've always done it. Simple, you don't need, you know, I don't like having exposed metal and bits and pieces, so you just dig them in, flat clay bottom. It's difficult on gravel pits, but I'd do the same thing, just pack them in tighter. But the clay is a godsend, you can't beat clay in my opinion, it's just easy to work with. So it looks quite high off the water there, but you've got to remember, 1.5 foot up, it brings it nice and high. And then a spirit level, keep them nice and steady and level. And we just keep working our way around until the ferry takes us home on Friday afternoon. There's always a way, look. It's just easy to say, no, we can't do that. Just get it round there, boys. In 10 years' time, when this place is amazing, it's because a lot of it is because of what these guys have done. Relentless, it's brilliant. Get a plan, stick with it. Look at that lovely view across there. That, when I first came, you couldn't see through there. And there was no ripple on this end of the water naturally. Even when there was a bit of a breeze, this was like dead water all along there. Anglers never appreciate how important that is. I mean, I'm not being funny, but it's a lovely view as well. So they're tidying up all these trees. It's great stuff. Oh, it's brown. Yeah, alright, give it a year. Worth a note. If you've got a clay lake with 8-10 foot plus of good blue solid clay holds water better than most things. There's absolutely zero need in the world to buy and use metal to put in your lake anywhere like this, because it takes ages to get them out. 10 foot that is. No need. It's Wednesday now. Team is still keen. Great stuff. Excuse the hat. Rather warm. Wednesday now, lunchtime already. Time just flies, we're having fun, etc. So not only have the club organised absolutely everything we need to do, and there's probably 20 people here out of the 600 odd members they've got. There's 20 here, but everyone's grafting. It's absolutely brilliant. This is the sort of thing, you know, that this is how angling clubs thrive and survive, especially these days. You know, everyone's going through the same problems. You know, I've done a dozen phone calls today about water levels and oxygen, etc. But We're all going through that, everyone, fish farmers. You've got some high profile, very experienced and very professional fish farmers losing fish. And a lot of it is down to environmental factors. It really is. Lack of water, algal blooms, etc., which are triggered by lack of water, and everyone's struggling. And then we're here, and the vibes are great. Not only are we doing loads of work on here with a big team of guys, like I said, 2 diggers, 2 dumpers. It's great. Yes, they're spending money, but it's money that needs to be spent, because they're literally making things happen that will last forever. It's great. We've done so much clearing on this lake. This is the carp lake, which I already on here. They're clearing banks, it's clearing snags from under the trees, leaving the overhang, you know, doing it all properly. And then they're building their own swims on this lake as well. Just simple, nice and straight and level, safe, simple. You know, land, fish well. And this is exactly, we're just doing slightly bigger versions of these on the main lake. Absolutely commendable work, and they should all be very proud of themselves, because I tell you, a lot of angling clubs don't do any of this. And then they moan and say, oh, fish are dying, etc. But it's just teams of blokes. It's fantastic. It's always the same. It's always the old boy. There's the odd exception, obviously, but yeah, it's really, really good. And hopefully we can get all the swims done by the time we get on the boat. But got to get on. My old friend's taken a bit of a beating since we were here last. He's had better days, bless him, but oh well, hems of breaks. We've all got shit going on, haven't we? So yeah, we're getting there now. I think we've done 7, 14, 21, 22, I think. So yeah, it's been long days, but thankfully the guys have been massively helpful. Big load of support. All the kit we need here. It makes the job a lot easier. So yeah, very, very good. So this was the corner with all the metal in. It's all gone now. Obviously the water level's 1.5 foot down, something like that. When we planted it, like I say, this time last year, we planted on a water line. So ignore the stuff in front, that's all going to come up 1.5 foot. All the platforms are gone. All the metal's gone. And when that water comes back up again, it softens the ground up. It's a lot safer fishing, a lot easier. The margins will become as much of a feature as the island now. And yeah, there's a lot more tidying up to do as yet, a lot more raking and bits and pieces, but it's getting there. It's up at 6 now. We're supposed to be having dinner at 7:30, but yeah, we've got a full day tomorrow, 7 more to do, and then Friday a lot of tidying up, but it's looking good at the moment. I think every single place we've ever built swims, when you rip up the old ones which have fallen apart and collapsing, half the reason why they're falling apart and collapsing is because of what they've been made with, and that people tend to undermine them with plastic and slabs. We found glass, greenhouses, frame, metal frame, all sorts of stuff, and I'd never understand it, because why wouldn't you just dig into the clay and build on the solid, hard clay where there is clay available, you know? But yeah, so it's always worth bearing in mind. There's electric cable been put in here many years ago for the aerators, which is great, but it was put very close to the edge. And ideally, obviously, because erosion is a thing and things change and you're going to replace swims and do maintenance work, and so you want it, if you're ever doing it again, not this site, but obviously instead of running it electric cable down here, we'd run it at least down here, right the way back there, and then just have a junction point and then have it coming in where you need it, and mark it on a tree or something like that. That way you know exactly where it is and it's completely out of the way, because a lot of places, you know, the commercials and the like that moan like hell, they don't have any plants, so they get even more erosion. And we've been to loads of places where, you know, 5 years down the line you got 1 foot less bank, 2 foot less bank, so you do need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, all 95.
So this is, all this litter we're finding is from 1995. We're like archaeologists now. Dave found a crisp packet the other day from 1995 round the other side of the lake, and it was buried underneath the old swim. So we reckon that they built these swims in 1995 and just buried their lunch, and all this stuff's from 95 as well. It just shows you old plastic doesn't degrade. This is what I'm on about with how good clay preserves things. So basically, if you can see down here, that is a very neat wall of blue clay. And there was a sleeper banged up to there, which is perfectly preserved. If you can get, like I say, not everywhere is the same, but if you've got decent clay,
red or blue, and you can work with it. It's fantastic stuff. Like I say, that's perfectly compacted in and pushed in. I've got to try and get this metal out, but yeah, obviously that's just claggy topsoil mixed in with clay at the top, but underneath there is lovely and hard, lovely and soft. That won't move. So that's what we're trying to do, is build into those and compact it down as much as you can. The ground, actually, a lot of the surface ground is very, very hard because we had no rain. So that's why these swims, we always put plenty of stuff on top of them and then let them settle, because I reckon, like I say, they'll drop a couple of inches. But that's good, that's what you want, because then it's compacting down with the rain. You can get whacker plate on top. And yeah, the frame itself can move a few mil here and there. That doesn't matter, that's fine, because the more it's doing that, it's bedding in. The brackets are all there to keep it stable, posts at the front, and in my opinion, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. Plus, they're easy to move, easy to lift up. We use bolts, hex screw, decent quality bolts, so that you can change it and move it, and you never know. But the thing I'd never use is metal. Occasionally, like I said before, you have to use scaffold poles, especially on gravel pits, because they can go an hell of a long way and you want that stability. And yeah, sure, push them in, but I don't even secure them on the fronts. You should have enough stuff to be able to fit stuff around the sides and stuff. I don't really want to over-engineer them, simply because you want it to look nice and you want it to be easy to adapt if you need to do anything. Or you never know, you might need to rip it out, or some people make a lake bigger, so you should rip it out, and it's a lot easier. And plus you can use the sleepers again. We're using, on every peg, we're using an old sleeper as a base, because they're nice and they're weathered. Also, still very impressed with this. Very sceptical about electric chainsaw, but it's been absolutely amazing. It's got a nice little thin blade on, which is perfect for doing sleepers, etc. But we took down loads of stuff off islands in the last few weeks, and I was so sceptical. I thought, no, it's gonna be rubbish. This is the MSA 160C, and it's just brilliant. Can't fault it. It's an absolute great bit of kit. You've got to look after it, keep it clean and stuff, but yeah, really good bit of kit. Like I said before, ducks and fish and all animals are the same. They're looking for easy food. So when we've got a big old digger, anglers think, oh, you're ruining the fish and all that noise. Look at these ducks, look. I mean, I'm moving this digger bucket around all day, and the fish are the same. When we're going round, we're disturbing material, moving substrate, and that's just releasing easy food, not just for fish but for everything. So the ducks aren't stupid. Look at them, look. It was in the bucket a minute ago, and they just follow us around, and when we leave a big pile, they just sit there pecking it. Look, they absolutely don't care. Really don't care. I only moved that a second ago. And fish are the same, but the amount of times you go, oh, the fishing will be crap now because he's made some noise. Why do you think spomming works so well? It works so well because the fish know it's food. It's quite simple, really. And when they're on pole anglers are whacking off the pole, and it's pretty straightforward. At the same time, people say, yeah, but the fish spook off, this, that and the other. Yeah, it's different situations. If they're feeding, if they're looking for food, they want easy meal, easy food, like these ducks. It's the same with fish. And these are the last 7. We tried to do 7 a day. I think we did 9 one day just to get the bases in. So we're good. We're on schedule to finish, and then we can have a good bit of time to tidy up tomorrow. Get everything as nice and tidy as we can before we leave. It's all good. So using an existing old sleeper, which are clean and well preserved at the base on solid flat clay, so you use a digger to make a solid flat base. There was already a platform in here, and then you just build up on it. And I can't see anything wrong with that at all. I've done so many, well, hundreds to be fair, like this all around the country. The returns are the key thing. Most people just stick a bit in, bloody, chuck a pole in and go, that'll do. And then they wonder why they get erosion around the sides. We go double returns every time, nice and level. Pretty simple, really. And all you got at the front is 2 wooden posts get rid of all the platforms, just makes it look uniform, tidy. So then you've got fringe of plants, swim, fringe of plants, swim, all the way around. Give it a year, 18 months, I'll look a picture. Plants are going to do one, obviously it's a flood, so it's a foot and a half down at the moment because of the weather. But once that's up and running again, it just looks so much better. You know, every time when these guys are taking out these platforms, they're telling us how much, how much line and tackles around them. And then they've also, a brilliant thing to do is reduce the numbers from 40 to 30, which is great. Very sensible. And this is where an old one was, obviously, so when I come back round, do another lap with the digger, tidying up later, I can redo all this. So then all I've got to do next week is just plug some plants in. Like I say, get a bit of weather on them, settle in a bit, whack a plate and do all sorts with them. But same here, look, there was an old one here. I'll just, with the big digger, because the clay's rock hard round here, so I'll just smash that up and then I'll tidy it up with the little digger. And then you basically just grade all this off. And again, it will settle down. This obviously needs grading today, tomorrow. And then we'll go and put some type 1 on it. And away you go. It's looking all right. While the lakes are shut, while we're doing all the maintenance work, you can see it's like, again, this lake's the same. It's about a foot and a half down. And when you've got trees like this, they're going to fall in eventually. But you don't have to take them out, you know. Right now, they're going to fall in, and when they fall in, I'd replace it with plants. You know, trees want to be back here if you're going to plant one, ideally, and then you get that lovely canopy effect. But the guys here have started to really sort the snags out. So underneath there, you know, you wade under there and cut stuff underwater. So if someone hooks a fish here, they can get under there quite safely, rather than go under there and you've pretty much lost it. They've been out doing an awful lot of swim work. Put some returns on these like they've done around there. Like I say, when we were netting in the winter, there's plenty of fish about today. It's loving this wind. A little bit cooler today. As soon as the sun comes out, it's crazy. But all along the island, it's rock hard, but it's also absolutely full of just debris, really, mainly old debris and bits of tree root and millions of yards of line, obviously. And now a lot of that's gone, so the guys again can just making it safe. It's nice, you know, you can still, better angles will be able to clip up and cast right under them trees. Lovely job. Get right tight to the far bank, and it's shallow, but it's rock hard under there, so they spend a lot of time under there. But it just makes it safe. That's all you're trying to do, you know, just because time and time again, and it isn't just day ticket lakes. Time and time again, you go to places. Doesn't matter if they're paying £1,000 a year or a few £100 a year, and you actually physically get in the water and you find rigs, all manner of different stuff, line, so much line. And my argument's always been the same. Well, every one of those bits of line had a fish on at one point, and you know, a lot of it's just down to anglers fishing areas which they can't safely land a fish. You know, we've all lost fish to snags, but you shouldn't really fish that close to the snags unless you properly know what you're doing, you're really geared up for it, obviously, and you're on your rods, next to your rods. You know, I used to fish a lake and my bed chair was with a rod either side of my bed chair, so I'd be laying in the bed chair, no brolly, and just have a rod either side. So I literally, at night, and you had to do that, and you'd land fish, all the fish is great, you know, clicked up tight and right next to your rods, but you know, you see people and they're miles away from them. Too busy moaning on Facebook most of the time. But yeah, it's all good. So they've done a hell of a lot of work on this lake. Much improved since we were here last, massively. Just cutting the grass and trimming all this sort of stuff's great, you know. Bit of tree work on the island. Yeah, you go places like Horseshoe and you take a couple of trees down. Oh, I've been fishing there 20 years, it's ruined. Yeah, okay, I can come to your work and tell you how to do your job. But yeah, it's all good. It's looking really good. This is where there are normally loads of fish in here. I'm sure there's some in there right now. You can wade through there, it's not too bad. So yeah, it's all looking very, very good. Isle of Wight Freshwater Angling Club doing wonders. And they'll reap the rewards, you know. The fish will grow as a result of not just this. People don't understand how doing this sort of stuff helps the fish. But you're just releasing more potential in the lake. You're opening up areas which previously were just dead. I also get quite a lot of emails and stuff about scum like this on top of the water, and people are worried about it, but it's just stuff off the trees, pollen, you know, especially when you're doing work. This is all just floating stuff, absolutely no problem whatsoever. You know, it's just perfectly natural. Millions of fry down there. They're like 5-7 mil long. Yeah, this is nothing, no problem at all. And you know, as long as you're monitoring, then it's telling you all you need to know. You know, if your water quality parameters are in line with what you want them to be, don't find a problem when there isn't one. Because we see that as well, you know, and it's good to not be paranoid, but it's good to be on the ball with that sort of thing, obviously. But visual monitoring, and having the kit to test your water, that's the key, really. And yeah, you can do all sorts. You can, when it's extremely hot, obviously you can limit the amount of bait goes in, limit the amount of angling. You can do an awful lot. And people do lose fish every year, obviously. It's nature. It's fish die like people die, you know. But it's all about trying to minimise that. And in my opinion, just neglecting the fishery management side of things and just opting to stock. And I get people say, you know, think stocking is fishery management. Well, stocking is just simply ringing up someone and buying some fish. And loads of lakes need to buy fish, but more need to take fish out and manage their fish stocks accordingly. Because look at this, it's lovely down there. Just because that's how it works, you know. Still water lakes, the fish can't go anywhere. And if all you're doing is leaving everything in and then adding to it, so you're already adding to a problem most of the time, and that can be dangerous, especially now. You know, a lot of fisheries and fish farms have lost fish this year, and that should tell you how important it is to look at your stocks and manage them accordingly. And every water's different, so you can't just say, well, X fishery up the road has got 20 carp over 40 pounds, so we need to buy some 40 pounders or whatever. You know, you can't be that naive. You really can't. We work for some people with loads and loads of money who are addicted to buying fish, and you net the lakes and all the fish have peaked at certain weights simply because the general biomass is too high and that particular lake can't support the volume of fish they want. And we trying to explain, oh, well, all right, I'll stop buying fish, and a year later you see they put some more in. And carp lakes especially, this is not just aimed at any particular fishery or style of lake. You know, we go to a lot of carp lakes who've got too many big carp in, and they, I really want to push them on, I said, well, take 10 out then, take 10 out a year. There's a big ghosty there. Take 10 out a year, you know, if they're 25, 30 pound and you've got loads and loads and loads of them and you want to get 40, just take some out, sell them. If you get the paperwork. People balk at that idea. They're like, oh no, you don't want to take fish out. Put more in, put some young ones in, put a different strain in. And yes, of course, there's lakes that can easily cope with all that extra load of fish. And there's a lot of well-managed fisheries that do stock every tool. The ones we have a problem with, the ones that just do it without knowing what's going on, without exploring what's already happening. It's like on here, no question, more fish will get caught. And it happened at Horseshoe, it happens all over the places. When you start actively managing your fish stocks, doing decent amounts of netting, just getting in the water and identifying issues, and cropping and surveying, you know, and just seeing what's going on, and you can identify whether or not it's worth feeding. You can identify all manner of stuff just by a day's getting in the water. You don't have to net, just getting in the water, not being scared. You know, actively managing your stock, just doing stuff like that. You learn so much all the time, and those subtle changes all built up together. You know, on these series of lakes here, what's going to make the difference is the feeding. But you don't do that until you've surveyed the lakes. You've netted all these, obviously. It's a video of it. Identified what was going on. Took stupid amounts of tiny little juvenile silvers out of all of them, which is great. And then started to introduce a bit of food. Started to do a bit of tree work. rebuilt the swims, and now it's like a domino effect. Now it's in a positive way. All these things that are happening are just massively going to improve the angling, the quality of the fish, the water quality. You know, it's a no-brainer. I don't understand why people don't don't do it. You know, I know it's easy just to ring the phone up and spend 5-10 grand on fish, but so many places don't need to do that. I know it's exciting. It's like me buying pairs of Air Max 90s and Jordan 4s, but that's by the by. And again, I've run out of space. I've only got a little house. They're all in the loft. They're not doing any good up there anyway. Probably sell some of them. Actually, that's a really good idea. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I'm so pleased with what's going on down here. Plants are looking good. It's ridiculously cheap fishing. I mean, we've got 600 odd members and it's like £110 a year or something for 3 sites that the club own, and they're all vastly improving every year. You know, we're going to do some work on the others this winter just to help out where we can. But yeah, it's absolutely great. We've dug all the holes for the swims now. The boys are just screwing together the last few. God knows how many brackets and bolts we've gone through. And then Tim Oatley has been over here with the other team from these as well, exactly the same. They look great, just easy. So it's all very, very positive stuff. Awesome, look, group of guys here, all working together to improve the fisheries for the members. Brilliant. Group of guys here, been here all week, giving up their time for the club. Not just working on one lake doing one job, working on 3 lakes. Danny's out on the island strimming, we're building swims. These guys are chipping, creating space. A team of guys on the other lake. Tim's been down helping all week as well. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Camera here. Awesome. Nice. Nice double figure common, and now he's got a little mirror. Not bad for 20 minutes fishing after work today. He bought his rod, so he thought it'd be rude not to use it really. Nice. Just come to see Tim. Oh, it's Friday now. Started at just before 7 this morning so we can get a ferry. And basically we've got them all in, 30 swims all in. They look a bit naff because it's so dry. You really want a bit of rain now. Obviously the water level's down. Some of the front couple of the swims, it's hard to get the posts in because it's so hard, so they haven't gone in perfect. Most of them are absolutely fine, but that gives it some support. We can put some more in. I'd personally put some more in the winter when the water level's up. You'll get them in nice and easy then. It's just rock hard under there and they just slide down the bank where it's all been eroded, so we've battered it up as best we can. There's a couple like that, and all this stuff, we'll rake it out as best we can, but basically it just wants wet, it just wants water on it, and it all just settles down. All the dust in the type 1 and all the rock hard clay, once it gets water on it, that's when it will settle down. Obviously you can reseed all this, but yeah, it's getting there. You get a few moans from some of the anglers about the water level and the keep net situation and all that, but once these are bedded in, they'll be like concrete. You can put a whacker plate on them if we don't get any rain, just to get them sorted, but they're fishable. Like some of them are high, some of them look high with the gravel because there's plenty of spoil. A lot of them we didn't have a lot of spoil to be able to use, so obviously every single one's different. Trying to get them all exactly the same, that's the idea, but it's quite difficult really because you know, sometimes you're extracting rock hard clay and sometimes you're extracting real soft stuff, so it's interesting lay of the land. So some places are rock hard down to sort of 8-10 foot of blue clay, and some places are just really soft, so they're stable. They just want a bit of aftercare really, tidying up. You know, if we had another 4 or 5 days we'd go around intricately on each one and do it, but the priority here was to use the equipment and just put them in really. The front post, there's only about, I reckon there's 3 swims that want attention. We'll try and do what we can before we go. The boys will just keep raking, but yeah, there's always other stuff to do. Like I say, once they're raked out, you can once the weather gets on, and that's what you really need. Not that we're going to get any rain, which is frustrating because I can't tidy it up as best as I want to. But they will, yeah, they'll settle down really nicely. And the more wet you get on it, like this time next year, they'll be rock hard. We've done loads before where you go back a year later and they're just settled really nicely, and it's like concrete. So obviously this will be raked, but you'll you'll be able to put a nice level seat box and stuff on them when they settle down. You could whack a plate and, like I say, but what gets them rock hard is when they get wet and everything just settles down, goes rock hard, and then you can top them again with a little bit more. And just when it, like I say, when all the clay gets wet and everything, that's what you're really looking for. But apart from that, it's looking good. I think it was great taking all those tiny, well, obviously you never get all of them, but just removing a lot of those tiny fish when we did the netting on here was really beneficial, simply because if you look at what's going on around the country, you've got professional fish farmers losing 200 grams worth of fish in one of the ponds. It's heartbreaking stuff, and these are professionals, you know. So when you've got lakes where you go through a whole season like this and the water level's dropped and you're not losing fish, especially when you've done all the work like the cropping and you've been actively sort of sensibly feeding the fish, cropping the fish, releasing some air and light. I mean, that corner up there where you've taken some trees down, that's massively improved the airflow. So all those things combined make a big difference. I always say it's never one thing that will change everything, it's a lot of little things. So everything's been done here, so you shouldn't have a problem now. If they're doing all right now and the oxygen's okay now and the fish look okay now, it's a combination of reasons why. And apparently the fishing's been really, really good, so you know, it's a credit to the club really. They put a hell of a lot of work in all the time, not just this week. We've just been helping really. But yeah, it's all been good. And it's and not just work on this lake, but like I said, the chaps have been working on the other lakes as well while we've been here, so it's been great to see really. And that's pretty much us done. We'll just keep tidying up and then we'll be back in the winter. So there used to be 40 swims and they were all sticking out platforms. And I totally understand that match anglers like that, because they can put their keep nets off into the water and they can fish behind them to the margins. But notoriously those sort of platforms become dangerous, and the ones here were, no doubt about that. They were falling apart. A few of the members had accidents. Plus erosion underneath them really weakens the bank because people don't put protection underneath. Well, they do, but it doesn't last very long. So in my opinion, we like to rip them out and do this. Now, you are going to get a few match anglers that will say, yeah, but I can't do this and I can't do that. But you know, this is a pleasure fishery really. All right, they have matches on here, and it's no different than any, you know, you go down the river, you have to adapt. And just, you know, the water level's down at the moment, so they do look quite high off the ground, but it's going to come up 1.5 feet. These will all settle down, so when you start moaning about not getting your seat box on their level, don't worry about that. Just for the next few months, everyone's in the same boat. You know, like I said, there's fish farmers losing fish at the moment, so just be thankful for the fish stock at the moment is looking all right. You've got 2 working aerators on here, reduced biomass, healthy feeding program, and just decent management really. Look at all that wind cutting through there now. You weren't getting that before because they've done the tree work. Plants are looking good. Some of these posts are a bit shit because of bloody the ground's crap, but anything you can do, you could easily just pin them in. We haven't got, we've run out of everything. We've run out of brackets, we've run out of bolts, run out of type 1, but we got it all done. I just wanted to get them all in. This can all obviously be graded and reseeded. We've tidied up, raked as best we can. You could put steps in here, but I don't think you'll need to. I think you'll be surprised by the time you get a lot of human traffic on this bank, it'll bed in anyway. So now the swims are right close to the water. All these plants, they're already established now. Obviously these are covered, but where we've had to rip the old platforms out, we've left big gaps, but I've graded them back as best I can. These are all level. But like I say, really, you just want some nice rain now. Obviously everyone does, everyone's desperate for rain, but you want a lovely bit of rain and it'll bed in lovely. And they'll go like concrete in there. And then you can enjoy it really. So when you look down here, you'll get, when the water level's up, this will all be underwater here, all this. And it's plenty deep enough off here for you. Keep it. But it's safe, it's level, And the margin fishing will become, you know, great. The fish will follow these margins around. I mean, they do anyway. I mean, when we were netting in the winter, the fish were underneath the platforms with all the 12-tonner fishing line and feeders and pole floats. But they've all gone now. So it's just a much safer place to go fishing for the fish and for the anglers, really. Like, these will be like I say. You could, if you wanted to, just put another couple of posts in there and put another short stopper on there, you know, if you're worried about people falling in. But then, to be fair, the platforms before weren't exactly what you call safe. These are perfectly level and flat, and when they bed in, like I say, you'll be able to roll on there with a seat box, etc. But yeah, we've raked all this as best we can. We've done a good job raking. These are the gaps where the old ones were, so I've just again chamfered it up with clay, and then the team here have done amazing things all week. They will go around and plug new plants in. It's just so hard. Everywhere's rock hard. See, that little digger was struggling to bust some of this up, but yeah, see, little things like this. That was an old platform, but now that can just be planted. A bit of topsoil on there afterwards wouldn't hurt. Some of these, like I say, they're high at the moment, and they'll go, oh, it looks shit. Yes, it does, but you give it a week of rain, a bit of weather. I mean, this time next year is when you're going to see the benefits. This time next year, it will just look amazing. You'll have nice water level, hopefully. Well, in the winter it will. And then, left that bloody pole in. I'll have to get that out in a minute. That clay that's over there, that can be dumped in here. This was really bad in here anyway, and when we did the planting, we got to there somewhere, I think. So we didn't do any grading around here, but the team have still planted. The club have planted all that bank, so it should be all right. But here, you got 25 tonne of clay or something in the car park. I'd bring half a dozen dumper loads, just backfill all this with clay, bring the digger around, smash it all in, and then just bring it back to this line here again, and then plant that. You can take cuttings off your own plants now. I've only been in a year, but you can already nip a few. They're established now. So again, here you can butter it all in, but this is rock hard under here. But then it falls away. So there's plenty of depth of water, and like I say, you've got to remember this will be underwater anyway when the water level's up. The grass is also dry and dying, but they will all settle down. Everything will drop and settle. The main thing was getting them in, getting them level, getting them so that you can actually fish off them. But yeah, again, that's where a platform was there. So yeah, it's okay. I think the lake looks better already. It looks bigger. And what with the tree work they've done on there, it's just let so much natural wind that wasn't getting in that corner. It certainly wasn't getting down here. And now throughout the day, it moves the water around. It's great. Plus you've got aerators as a backup. But like I say, the club's moving forward. They're installing permanent oxygen meters, permanent ones, which are linked up to the internet, which I think sound amazing, and I'm sure they're very good. But I would argue a little bit the fact that if you put them in one spot, in one, you know, you're going to put one in each lake, which I think is a brilliant idea, but you've got to keep an eye on them. It's no good just totally relying on it, because if they're in, and these are going to, the three that are going to be put in, they're going to be in relative, apart from this lake, this one's been sorted out, but the other one's going to be in very shaded areas. So when we test oxygen, we're walking around doing it from a few different spots. All right, you know, it's a great bit of kit, but you've still got to be down here cleaning the kit every now and then, make sure it's working. I'm always, it's a bit like with oxygen when I'm transporting fish. If I'm you know, we obviously learn about diffusion and all that sort of thing when you're a youngster at college, but I do everything by eye. With regards in my tanks, like if I'm transporting fish, I'll set the oxygen gauge up, and the gauges aren't brilliant anyway, even if you spend a load of money on them. They get damaged and stuff, so you just look at the microfine bubbles coming through, and I do it all by eye. Obviously with dissolved oxygen, you need the kit, you need a decent calibrated machine. But you've got to keep it clean, you've got to maintain it. So the fact that this bit of kit's going in is fantastic. But you can see, you know, if it goes under that willow, which is pretty much under shade all day, you know, the reading there is going to be a lot different than the reading up there, potentially. But it gives you an early warning sign, definitely. And I think it's a good investment, without a doubt. That's the sort of thing clubs should be buying, you know, for the cost of that. If it saves you a fish kill, then Christ, it's worth it, you know. But I can't praise the club. I mean, every time we come, they get stuck in. But this week's been amazing. Like I say, there's a handful of clubs that we work for. I know there's a lot more that are as proactive as these guys, but they're literally grafting all week. Brilliant. Top group of guys. It'd be nice if more of the members came and helped them out. You know, these are all the same crew we see every time. But they're the heart and soul of the club as far as I'm concerned. They're putting all the graft in, putting all the work in. And we're just here to help with that, really. So it's a pleasure to come over and help. So that's us done now. It's been great, and we will be back in the winter.